Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Welcome to our next live, which is very special for us and very extreme. Why very special? Because it is our 10th edition. We have kind of anniversary today, so let's party and fingers crossed we'll continue with this. Yes! So, at the beginning, a few words what we'll be talking about today. Agenda prepared to our precious Agata, who is absolutely the best in it. So, we'll talk today about extremes. Extremes on the very good example, which is Iceland. Iceland is a super capricious place to go, so we'll tell you about it. Actually, not us, our guests. You will get very useful tips how to prepare to these extreme conditions, and you will be prepared how to travel there and get the best advice from people who made their travel. And then you will be prepared also what kind of budget you should have to actually visit this place, which everybody knows is one of the most expensive you can imagine. So I am not an expert on Iceland. I wish I was, but not yet. I still have to go there. So far I have just made motorcycle transports, but I haven't visited the island. But we have with us today our super guests from other side of Europe. Agata Lange from Poland and Joris the Porter from Belgium, and they are now in Belgium. They travel as ADV Hoppers, so you can follow their profiles, see their fantastic movies from the trips they have done so far. And they are now preparing the round the world trip, so maybe they will tell us a few words about this as well. They are sitting in Belgium with 2 cats. We are sitting in Warsaw in our garage with 2 dogs, so everything is in equilibrium as you see, and it's very extreme. So welcome Agata, welcome Joris, how are you?
Hi, we're good.
Hi, yeah, you are now on vision, you can say hello to the world. There are people
Hello,
watching
hello.
us.
Hello, it's a nice way to meet the world, but I prefer in like face to face.
You are face to face, you are on Facebook, so it's kind of face to face. Okay, guys, I forgot one thing. Sorry, I was so excited about starting. Anya, hello, I see you are with us. Edward, please let us know if you can hear us, if you can see us well, because we have sometimes issues with internet here. We are in a small village near Warsaw. So I give you few seconds to write a comment that you can hear us well and you can see all of us well. And as you see, our dogs got crazy, as always. Anya, waiting for your reply. Please let us know something, because I don't know if you don't hear me or it's just that you went somewhere. Okay, all good. We have a sign, all good. Thanks, Anya. Thanks. Just for small interruption, Anya, who is with us today, has just come back from the US, and unfortunately she had to make a small stop in her round the world trip, round the world south to north to the Americas. Because of the stupid coronavirus and pandemic, she couldn't make it to the US with the bike, so she has a break in Poland. Anya, we keep fingers crossed that you will continue to Alaska. We'll follow your trip. But now go to the point. I wonder, Joris, Agata, Iceland, the opposite to Colombia, which I have here, is one of the coldest, the most harsh place you can think of. It's very cold, very windy, very volcanic. There is more sheep than people. Why someone would ever want to go there? What is so special about the island? Tell us.
Well, if you just want to go to another planet without leaving Earth, Iceland is the best choice that you can take. Actually, we didn't experience that extreme weather, but we'll talk about it later. Definitely, it's a place that it can be cold, it can be windy, but it also can be sunny. But as I can tell you, all the landscapes, all the things you see and you experience just compensate for anything that is inconvenience during the trip.
Yeah,
Yes,
Sorry to interrupt. Joris, can you just hold Agata closer to you because we don't see her, we just see you. Okay.
That's enough.
No, we won't see you. Joris, before you start, I wanted to ask you one question because Agata just mentioned that in Iceland can be cold, can be sunny, and so on. Is it really the case that it can be sunny? Is it possible you go for a trip and you have good weather on a trip?
Yes, to be honest, we were there for more than 2 weeks, and actually, we only had 1 day of rain.
Wow.
Yes, so we were very lucky, I must say. But the weather, all our pictures, it's blue skies.
Yeah, we can see your pictures. It's actually unbelievable. And I think if you didn't have these pictures, which all of you can see now, we wouldn't have believed you because everyone, or almost 90% people whom I know who were in Iceland, experienced all the opposite. Rain, wind, and it was in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
There is this very common saying that if you don't like the weather in Iceland, wait for 15 minutes to change to worse. So
Okay, so appreciate
so
what you
never
have.
complain.
Okay. Agata, you've been traveling actually a lot. Tell me, and Joris as well. Tell me, what is so special about Iceland, how it stands out from other places that you actually want to endure all of these extreme and harsh weather conditions and you don't go, for example, to sunny Sicilia or any other destinations which would be easy, sunny and with good food. And instead of this, you go to this Iceland, which is at the end of the world, and you will have all kinds of weather and you have to be prepared for all of this. What is so special?
I think you just need to balance your experiences. So one time you go to sunny Corsica or Colombia or somewhere else when everything is easy in terms of the weather and food and accommodation and everything. And then you just need to experience something different. Like on Iceland. So it's just a great opportunity to test yourself, test your bikes, test your test how you ride, test your equipment. And then you just, even if there is something that goes wrong, or even if there is something that is not pleasant or not convenient, then the memories are just greater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So for me, actually, like it's a very unique country. I mean, the island, it's like I've never seen it. I mean, you have to travel there to see this type of landscapes. So that's unique in the world. If you haven't been to Iceland, you will never see that type of landscape. What's extra, and that was like a bit more for me, it's like a great off-road country. I mean, the terrain is very special. It's also very rare to find this type of terrain to, let's say, to sharpen your skills.
Okay, we'll talk later about your experiences and terrain and everything, but I think people are waiting a lot for actually your advice how to prepare on this kind of extreme and harsh conditions because you had to make a lot of preparations. And if you could tell us a few words about it, so if some of us finally go there, we'll not be completely soaked and frozen. So guys, if you are watching us, and I will ask some questions to Agata and Joris, but if you have any questions, any specific things you would like to hear about, or you are planning to go to Iceland and you are hesitating how to prepare and what you actually should think of, just write it in the comments, write your question, and we will pass it to Agata and Joris and they will answer your questions. So feel free to do it. And well, we start with the open question, how you prepared and what is the most important, what we have to remember about, and what was also the most difficult to prepare for these extreme conditions.
Well, I think you need to have the clothes that are waterproof. So either some good waterproof equipment or suit, or just a rain suit to use all over your clothes. Have some warmer clothes underneath. Sometimes it's not the rain that is most annoying, but the wind that just chills and makes you feel the temperature is way lower than it is. And also, what was important, if you're wild camping over there, you need to have a very comfortable and very warm sleeping bag, because otherwise you will just wake during the night with your teeth clinging, and it will just not be a pleasant experience.
Okay, Agata, sorry to interrupt specific questions because I like numbers. You say a warm sleeping bag. So what was the lowest comfort temperature of your sleeping bag? -15, -5? How warm it must be?
I think the one that we had was close to like -10, -15. But I don't like cold, so I need to have something really warm around me during the night. So it's good to have a really warm sleeping bag, because the temperatures were sometimes below zero during the night in August. So it can really be
middle of the
cold.
summer. Middle of the summer. Okay. It's super funny to hear you. I don't like cold, and you go to Iceland for holiday. Come on. You like to torture yourself, or it was a challenge?
I love skiing, and I enjoy spending winter in the mountains. So I don't know, but I just don't. It can be cold outside, but I just need to feel warm. That's it.
Okay.
So if I can interrupt, what's very important, like for the sleeping part, which is very important, if you plan to go with a tent and to do wild camping or camping sites, also a very good mattress, because the position of the soil there, it's very loose. So that means during the night it gets very cold on the ground.
Okay.
So it's very important to have a very good mattress.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good point actually. People usually underestimate it because they focus on what is on above them, but notice what is under, and it's pretty important. Okay, before I find my other tricky question, we have one question from Anya. Anya is specialist traveling, so I don't know, Anya, how come you have any questions, but it's good. So the question from Anya is, how much time do you need to see the Iceland, or to see at least most of it? Because just to explain to the people, we'll talk about it later as well. Most of the riders and travelers go to Iceland either to make a loop around the island, and you can do it on road bike, or to visit the interior, which is 100% off-road. And actually you can do it only in August when the rivers are low, because the biggest problem there are rivers. And although Iceland, I mix it, but island and Iceland both in once. Although the Iceland looks small, the kilometers of the coasts it's really like a big distance. So how much time do you need to sit? Is it 2 weeks enough? You should go for 3 weeks, or what would you advise?
So I advise, we did like a bit more than 2 weeks on itself, and actually that wasn't enough. Why? We did a lot of off-road in the interior, but a lot of the places we skipped because of time.
Okay. Yeah, it's not
and
good.
Also the weather.
Yeah, this you never
The
know.
weather.
This you never know. But I think once you get there, which is not that easy, and we'll talk about it later, it's good to see the maximum, because the probability you will come back is not that high. Okay, Anya, I see your next question, but I will come back to it later, because the financial part of the talk will have a bit later, so I don't want to mix it with what we are talking about now. My question is, because I was actually preparing myself for Iceland a couple of times. I never reached the island so far, but I will. And I found out that it's sometimes easier to find this waterproof clothes, or the gloves, or the stuff that can be really useful there in the, for example, fisherman shop than motorbike shop. Did you have any weird acquisitions in places like fisherman shop, or I don't know, something else, or for example diving shop for motorcycle trip?
No, the only thing I got as a present after the trip was this waterproof socks.
Ah,
That's actually, yes, that's a very good. I didn't have it before the trip because I realized only after it. So, but that's a very interesting item to take with you. These waterproof socks, they're warm, they keep your feet dry, and they keep your boots from stinking.
okay, okay. This is
Very
good if you travel with someone, and
yes.
you can buy these waterproof socks in the motorcycle shops or in adventure shops. Where we should look for them?
Either in motorbike shops or in shops where they sell cycling equipment, because sometimes the bicycle people who ride bicycles use them as well. I think so. Generally, you can look in the outdoor and adventure shops, and you should find them.
Okay, my next question is, as a biker, because I also don't like cold that much, but I don't like heat either, so I'm kind of, golden middle is the best. But I usually, if I suffer from temperature or from cold, is the hands on the motorbike. So what kind of gloves did you use, or what would you recommend in terms of gloves? Because, okay, you ride, great, it's cold, you can put the jacket, everything fine, but you have to, especially in the off-road conditions, you have to control well the bike. So actually what you have on hands is crucial, and I guess the more off-road the trip is, the less thick the gloves can be, because then you don't feel the bar. So what is this golden middle, and what did you use?
So I'm the kind of person that turns on the heated grips when the temperature goes below 20 degrees. So it was it was quite cold for me there, but luckily I had the heated grips, so that was one thing. The second thing, during the off-road, if the conditions are really difficult, then you do quite a lot of exercise, so you just warm up yourself. The most tricky part was when we were traveling on the ring road, and there it was very, very, very windy. So I think a couple of times I had my winter gloves on, like really thick winter gloves. But I think you can also make some, let's say, be creative. And sometimes what I use is I have like the very thin silk gloves, usually used for running, and then I put on them the latex gloves, and on that the normal gloves, so it's watertight, it's windproof, and you are not sweating in it either. So that's also something that you can do. Imagine the limit.
Okay, so I see the wearing, like we call it, as an onion, so a lot of layers, works on Iceland. Okay, so one question, and tell me if you don't want to answer because it's too personal or too direct, but I am very, very curious. How many layers you actually had on you of the clothes riding every day on Iceland? How you actually should prepare yourself to put all these clothes? Is it like one warm layer, or you have to have 10 of them, or what were they? And these practical tips, actually, how much clothes and what type of clothes we should bring if we go to Iceland.
So as I said, I don't like to be cold, so I probably had more layers on me than Joris did. So I had like a thin short sleeve merino wool t-shirt, then on it one merino wool long sleeve, and most likely, if it was colder, I had like one more thin merino long sleeve on that, and then just a motorcycle jacket. But there were times that was really woof woof woof.
Yeah, woof woof. They are
The
talking to your
temperatures were
cats, I
really
think.
high enough so that all the layers were not necessary.
Okay, but I hear there were at least 3 layers, and merino is the warmest cloth you can find on the market, so it's quite a lot. Okay, and under the helmet, how do you go under the helmet?
Whether it's plus 40 or minus 10, I usually have this balaclava, or how do you call the kominiarka stuff?
Balaclava. Okay, Joris, and you felt cold on the island, or you are the cold fan and you don't care and you feel great when the temperature goes around 0?
I don't feel great, but I don't mind at all cold. It doesn't bother me too much. But on the other hand, to avoid getting sick, or because if you're like wet for, I don't know, 8 hours a day, with wet feet and cold, then the risk that you get weak and sick, it's high risk. So for me, it like I always put on my skin. I like this cotton, like it's a good feeling. It's like soft, and over that one merino wool long sleeve shirt, and actually that's it. But what's important, wet stuff gets very cold. So make sure, especially for the gloves, that you take at least two pairs of gloves.
Okay.
At least.
Okay.
There's a lot of river crossings. Sometimes the water comes very high, so everything gets wet anyway. So keep your feet dry. So good boots, maybe with this waterproof socks, and at least 2 pair of gloves.
Okay, good point. Yeah, don't forget about the gloves. Now I would like to deal a little bit with the stereotypes, because most of the people think that Iceland is like a super off-road terrain only, which of course is true, but is it 100% true? Is Iceland a place which is good to go only for off-road riders, or the on-road riders would also feel good there and have something to do? How is it in reality?
Iceland is a place for everyone. You can spend most of your time in the interior and do many kilometers off-road. You can just stick to the asphalt roads on the outside of the island. Actually, on the ferry with us, there was a very nice team, father and son. The son was about, I don't know, 16, 17, something
17.
like that. So it was a very nice father and son experience. And they were on scooters, two small scooters with some, they looked a little bit like postmen, because on the sides of the scooters they had post bags with their luggage, and they were doing just a tour around. We met them on the ferry traveling to Iceland and back, so they made it, and I think once we met them also on the way. So it's absolutely for any kind of vehicle, so on-road, off-road bikes, bicycles, everything.
Great. This is good news, because you can use your scooters, your big BMWs, your whatever kind of bike. Agata, you can use, you see, this is Agata bike, very beautiful one. This is Scrambler. I hope Agata will see it one day on Iceland. I will transport it for free for you. So, okay, before we skip to the transport section, which is super important for me, but I think for everyone, because as Iceland is an island, it's not that easy to reach. Tell us a few words about your tips and advice for the people. You already said the gloves, the layers, the everything, but maybe there is something else that you want to tell, and just put yourself in the shoes of someone who has never been there and never heard, for example, about this waterproof socks, which I guess Joris would wish to heard before Iceland, not after. So maybe you want to share some of this kind of practical tips and thoughts with the people who are going there in the future and they have no idea how to prepare and what they should expect there.
Just a tip: when you're there with your motorbike, plan your trip carefully, especially in the relation to petrol stations. It's not that easy. As you said, the distances, the island itself looks relatively small, but it's not that small, and the distances between the cities or between 2 points on the map can be really way longer than they seem. And we need to remember that the petrol stations are only on the road around the island. And sometimes, even if they are shown on the map, it doesn't necessarily mean the petrol station is there. So make sure you have enough fuel, and you know where your next petrol station is, especially if you're going to interior, because then it can be like 300-400 kilometers without any petrol station.
Can you tell us a few words about accommodation? I'm very curious because, okay, I know there are hotels around the islands, inland probably not too many. So how you deal with this, with accommodation, and in relation to actually drying your all the time wet clothes if you sleep in a tent and it's zero and it's raining and this kind of stuff. This is first question. Second question, hot springs. Iceland, it's famous because of the hot springs and water. So I hope it is one of the options that actually can warm you up when you are freezing. Is it easy to find them? Is there any, I don't know, application website where people look at to plan camp or hot springs visit or something like this? Any clues with respect?
So the accommodation, there are a few options. So first of all, you can do some walking. So you like some place, you just sit there. Usually, there will not be too many other people, especially if it's somewhere inside the island in the interior. There are also campings. You can use campings. Some of them are pretty nicely equipped with all the facilities, toilets, kitchens, and some places when you can dry your clothes, but some of them are very, very basic. Nevertheless, you need to pay for both of them, and it's not a cheap thing, but I think we'll discuss finance a little bit later. In the cities like Reykjavik, there is totally no problem. You can find hostels, hotels, and there is totally no problem with accommodation. But in some other places, like we had one day that we were it was very windy. The weather was the worst of all the days on Iceland. It was cold, raining, windy. We were tired, and we were looking for accommodation for 100 kilometers. That extended our total distance on that day by, let's say, 100%.
Wow.
And we literally were stopping at each house that had a sign like bed and breakfast or rooms or anything. And we did that for 100 kilometers to reach a small city that had one left room in the only hotel in the city. That was so expensive that I don't want to even say how much it was.
You will tell us later. You will tell us later when we talk about finances. Yeah, well.
But it depends. It depends. You can find a lot of options. Most of them are costly unless you just do wild camping. Joris wanted to say.
Yes. So if people travel the south, like the south coast of Iceland, best to make reservations in this bed and breakfast or hotels if they want to sleep. Yes. If you want to sleep like at the camping, there's no issue, there's no problem. But if you want to have a hotel or a bed and breakfast, make reservations in the south.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because there are way more people traveling in the south because they usually go to Reykjavik and then travel south to some extent, and it's just more crowded because of that. So it's more difficult to find accommodation, especially in the peak of the season.
Yeah, well, this year peak of the season may be different than any other years. Who knows? In theory, Iceland is open, but they have very strict and not favorable rules in terms of entering the country, so I'm not sure if there will be any or many tourists going. But yeah, coming to the point of actually reaching the Iceland, because if you go there, let's say as a not a biker but as a tourist, you fly and that's it. There are cheap flights normally. So not a big deal. But if you have a bike or a car or something to actually be transported to the island, There are two options. As far as I know, there is an option to go by ferry, which you chose, and I hope you will tell us about your experience and costs and how long did it take. And there is another option to come with us using our container and our transport, and I have no idea why you didn't use our transport, but maybe there is a reason. I will know now. Maybe we can actually compare what are the advantages and disadvantages of both of these options. So I don't know who is more specialized in the transport. Is it Agata or Joris? But tell us a few words about how to arrange the transport and what are pros and cons to use the ferry and maybe our container.
Yeah. So last year we had to take this decision, like how will we get there, and then we were checking the possibilities to travel by boat, by ship, and they had very interesting conditions back then. Yes. So that was already a good reason to take a look at that, and also because we had more time, we had like
More than 3 weeks.
3 weeks on our hands, let's say, to fill up, so we could choose for the option to take the boat. Another its advantage is if you come back or you go, you stop at the Faroe Islands. So that's actually an extra visit you have when you take the boat.
Yeah, this is true. And you are with your bike, I understand. No, you're on the same boat as your bike is.
Yes.
Okay.
The only, disadvantage is the time, because it takes around 3 days to get there, and there is not much you can do on the ferry.
Well,
drink a beer.
Yeah, drink a beer. It is what I wanted to say, but not for 3 days.
It's super expensive.
Okay.
But you can, I mean, they had like jacuzzi, they had some games you could play. You could play football, like on the small field, but still. But it takes time. The advantage is at that time it was really like a super cheap price, and there was a promotion that actually motorbikes were shipped for free, so we only paid for ourselves.
Oh, this is good.
And we could see the Faroe Island, and actually that was the condition. The motorbikes go for free, but you need to stop over at Faroe Islands. So we didn't mind, we had the time, but I believe if you are short of time and you just want to have your bike shipped, just fly there, which will take you 2 hours or something, then shipping by a container and flying is an option.
I completely accept your explanation. I would have done the same being you. So yeah, visiting the ferry island as something extra is super nice, and if there was promotion, you didn't pay for the bike, it's actually great. Can you tell us more or less, if you remember, what was the price for this ferry and how much it was, to give the people the idea about the money?
So, but I'm speaking about last year, okay? This was with this promotion for both of us and our motorbikes. We paid 1,160 euro, only like separate cabins. If we need to mention that, so I couldn't sleep with her.
Yes. So there were like lowest class of cabins, so it looks actually like this couchette train. So like 6 beds in a very, very small room, separate for men and women, with no bed line and with nothing included. So just like a plain bed. Only thing that was included was breakfast, right?
Yeah,
the breakfast were included. So that's it. But it was like the really traveling on budget.
Okay, so it's good to know that we don't know this year prices, because this year is very upside down and special because of pandemic and COVID. So I'm not even sure if this ferry is still running actually. But normally you have the ferry. Sometimes they make promotions, so you can visit the ferry island, or you don't pay for your bike. So it's worth actually looking at. Provided that you have time, you have different, let's say, luxury of cabins, like Agata said, so you can choose more budget stuff or more luxury, as always. So it all depends how deep are your pockets. Or if you don't have that much time, you can always choose our transport with the container to Reykjavik. I mean, we'll not transport you, we'll transport your bike. And then you can fly with one of the cheap airlines. There is quite a few of them going to Iceland normally, not now. So this is good option. Our container goes there. The time of transit is 2 weeks, including all the custom and formalities on both sides, so it's not that bad. I'm saying this because the best time to visit Iceland, I don't know what is Iceland about. Iceland is August. It's like, correct me if I am wrong, is it August? Yes. Yes,
August.
because the level of the rivers is the lowest. So if you want to go through interior, it's the right time, and the temperatures are the highest. So we provide the transport for August, and which means you will lose your bike in the high season here in Europe, but just for 2 weeks one way, which is kind of, I think, good deal for seeing something which is so special and moon-like, like Iceland. So we invite you very much to use our transport. We will not be offended if you choose ferry. We perfectly understand the pros and contras. So we'll see who chooses what. And now the favorite subject of everyone, especially in terms of Iceland or Norway, which are, I think, the most expensive places you can imagine, is budget. So tell us actually, how much does it all cost? How much do you need as a minimum to go there? Tell us, Agata and Joris, about this most expensive room in the last village, which was waiting just for you and you couldn't resist. So we want to know all of it.
So, it's expensive. It's Iceland. Iceland is expensive in terms of accommodation. So basically for the two of us, for each night we would pay €100, regardless if it was a hostel or hotel in Reykjavik, a bungalow somewhere in the small village, shepherd's hut in interior, or one of the campings. I think one of the campings was a little bit cheaper. It costed for both of us around 30 something euro, but it was super basic. But in the morning, the lady, the owner of the camping, came with a terminal for the card, so you just pay with the card, no problem. You can make up for those prices if you like every other night or every 3 nights, if you just camp on your own somewhere wild, then it's for free, of course. So that's and the most expensive hotel actually, so I think it was more than €200 per night for both of us, and it was in a room with bunk beds and the toilet and bathroom on the corridor.
Wow.
So the standard doesn't really match, and doesn't really match the prices, or the prices don't match the standard, but sometimes there is just nothing left. So yeah, that was it. And so you can go on budget, but then it means camping all the time, like wild camping, because the campings are also pretty expensive.
Okay, which means cold, and it's kind of impossible for 2 weeks, I guess.
Well, depending on your level of discomfort that you accept. In terms of the food, so of course the cheapest way is to just go to the shop, buy food, and make your own, cook on your own. What we do recommend is on petrol stations, or next to some of them, there are bigger bars that serve very nice breakfast for quite reasonable price. The good thing is that you pay for your coffee or tea once, and you just have unlimited refills. So when you're cold and want something warm to drink, that's a perfect option. You pay once and drink as much as you want. If you go to the restaurant, it's also, I mean, there are like higher European prices. So what you see in France, for example, or Switzerland, so it's like that, a little bit higher. Mm-hmm. thing to remember, if you want to buy beer or any alcohol, you will not be able to do that in the normal shop. I mean, you can, but the beer is, I think, 2.25% of alcohol, so like very, very low alcohol drink. If you want to have a decent beer or a decent drink, then you need to go to a pub, and then it's super expensive. But in many places they have happy hours every day for like half a day, so it's possible to have some discounts or some good offers on that if you really want to have a beer.
Okay, so this is doable. Good to know. Anya was asking if you have an idea about the daily cost, if you estimated your average cost of the trip, because as she's a long distance and long-term traveler, she always makes this kind of statistics. What is the average daily cost in each country she travels? I have absolute no doubt that Iceland would be number one in terms of the most expensive, but I'm just curious if you did it, if you know how much you spend per day, or not really.
It depends. I can tell you how much we spend in total. You divide it by the number of days and you have the cost a day. But actually it's not correct, because, and I wanted to add that on the boat, for example, you have 3 days. It's very expensive. It's cheap ticket, but it's very expensive to stay there. If you want to drink some beers or have some food or whatever, it's super expensive. And if you have 3 days only sea, you start drinking, so it's expensive.
Okay, so it's better to use our container and fly, I see, unless you want to become an alcoholic or something. And guys,
drink tea.
Yeah, I'm sure you can convince most of the people to drink tea for 3 days on the ferry. More than sure. Guys, we have some surprise for you. I don't know if you see the screen, probably not, but you will see it later. There is a friend of yours called Grzegorz Dziada, whom you met in Iceland, and who is sending you the greetings from Iceland. So this is surprise. I hope he's hearing you. Okay, so yeah. Where did you meet in Iceland with him?
In Reykjavik. He was our super host in Reykjavik, showing us around, and actually we made him skip half of his work day, I believe, because we invited him. We were just spending time in a cafe with him. So, but
okay,
it was
hello.
Very nice day.
Hello. Okay, guys, last question, and we'll have to finish. My question is, I have heard that it's super easy to meet people in the shops or gas stations or anywhere in Iceland who actually speaks Polish. Is it true that it's easy to communicate in Polish on the island?
Yes, it is.
Very easy.
So, for example, in the restaurant, there was a Polish waitress. In the super expensive hotel in the restaurant over there, there was again a Polish waiter who actually told us something about the nearest free hot springs. We skipped this topic. We skipped the question. But it's very easy to find Polish people. So yeah, you can probably find more Polish than English-speaking people there.
So there were people working on electricity on the street, and we were like having a look in Reykjavik over touristic stuff, and the guys were speaking Polish.
You see, Joris, do you speak Polish already?
Nie.
You see, Polish is the super useful language while you travel around the world, so you have to change it and learn Polish before you go to the next destination, because you never know whom you meet, but you know for sure you will meet someone from Poland. This is obvious everywhere. Dobra, super, okay, I take it for granted, challenge accepted. We will interview you in some time after your next trip, and we'll speak then in Polish, and let's see how you will deal with this. Okay, guys, many thanks for your time and for your useful tips. We have to finish today. I am sure people will find a lot of your advice as something that can be really introduced into real life and will help them to prepare for the trip. So again, thanks, and wish you all the best for your next travel, and for your rounded project. We will follow it. And people who are still with us, don't forget, as I always repeat, to sign up for our newsletter, which will be sent tomorrow or the day after tomorrow to everyone. So many thanks, and see you next time with 2 weeks. Bye.
Looks like closed now. Yeah.